Before you skip this explainer, you really need to understand something genuinely terrifying. Every single second you spend distracted, your brain is physically changing. Your focus is getting weaker, your patience is completely disappearing, and your mind is slowly but surely becoming addicted to constant stimulation. And you know what the scary part is? Most people don't even realize it's happening. If we just ignore this psychological trap, it could quietly destroy your future.
I mean, just look around, right? Almost nobody can sit quietly anymore. The absolute second boredom appears, people instinctively grab their phones. One quick scroll becomes 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes turn into hours. But this isn't just happening by accident. Psychologists have actually discovered that modern apps are heavily engineered to exploit a very dangerous weakness inside the human brain.
Think about it. You sit down to work, you open a book, and suddenly your hand just automatically reaches for your phone just for 2 minutes. Why does this keep happening? Are you just lazy? Are you completely undisciplined? Or are you just conditioned? By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly why your attention is being controlled, how your brain became trapped, and, most importantly, exactly how to escape before it's too late.
So let's dive right into part 1, the attention trap. See, your attention actually functions exactly like a muscle. But right now, for most of us, that muscle is being actively, aggressively weakened. The more you constantly switch between apps, short videos, and rapid-fire notifications, the weaker your focus actually becomes. Psychologists have a term for this. It's called attention fragmentation. It's the literal loss of your ability to focus deeply. Your brain is slowly, secretly losing its capacity to stay locked onto one single difficult task.
And after spending enough time under this constant fragmentation, some pretty strange things begin happening. You'll probably recognize a few of these. You literally can't study or work for long stretches. Silence starts to feel weirdly uncomfortable. You get bored incredibly quickly. You overthink constantly, and normal everyday life just starts feeling way too slow. When you experience these symptoms, you have to realize something crucial. That isn't laziness, that is pure conditioning.
Let's actually put a number on this conditioning, because most people think a little distraction isn't a huge deal. Well, let's do the math. If you waste just 30 minutes a day on meaningless distractions, just half an hour, that equals 15 hours a month. Over a whole year, that is 180 wasted hours. Literally 180 hours. That is enough time to master an entirely new skill from scratch. Success doesn't just vanish overnight, you guys. It gets lost in these tiny, daily, 30-minute distractions.
Which brings us to part 2, your reprogrammed brain.
What's really fascinating about this is how our biology was entirely hijacked to make those 180 hours just disappear. Thousands of years ago, the human brain evolved purely for survival. Whenever our ancestors found food, excitement, or something new, the brain rewarded them with a chemical called dopamine. But here's the kicker. Dopamine is not happiness, it's motivation. It's the chemical that makes you actively want more. It's pure anticipation.
And believe me, social media companies understand this perfectly. This addiction loop is literally the core of their entire business model. Every single notification, every short video, every random reward is carefully, deliberately engineered to trigger this exact dopamine loop. You get a new stimulus, dopamine is released, and you repeat the behavior. You're constantly chasing the possibility of something interesting. That's exactly why you check your phone without even thinking about it. Your brain has been trained to crave that stimulation.
This brilliantly illustrates the invisible war happening inside your head every single day. On one side, you've got your prefrontal cortex. Think of it as your CEO brain. It's logical, it plans for the future, it desperately wants you to study or get your work done, but it is slow. On the other side is your limbic system, your monkey brain. It's emotional, it seeks instant comfort, and it is incredibly fast. So when you sit down to work, your logical CEO brain says, all right, let's focus, but your fast monkey brain screams, let's just check one notification. And because that monkey brain acts faster, it almost always wins.
But it actually gets worse, because giving in physically changes your brain. When you choose a cheap distraction over a hard task, your brain triggers a specific protein called delta FOSB. Think of delta FOSB kind of like a construction crew inside your head. Every single time you give in to that monkey brain, this protein literally builds a 10-lane superhighway straight to that distraction, making it easier and easier to get distracted the very next time.
All right, let's move on to part 3, social media's dark psychology.
Let's look at the business model behind this biological hijacking. See, most people think social media apps are free, but they're not. You pay with your attention. The absolute longer you stay online, the more money these companies make. It is literally that simple.
So to keep your attention locked in, their algorithms study your behavior incredibly carefully. They learn exactly what makes you emotional, what makes you angry, what makes you insecure, and precisely what keeps you scrolling. Why? Because emotional people stay online longer. That's exactly why negative content spreads so much faster than positive content. Fear captures attention, anger captures attention, drama captures attention, and slowly but surely, your brain becomes utterly addicted to emotional stimulation.
And the crazy part? Even when you finally manage to put the phone down, you aren't actually safe. There's this phenomenon called attention residue. When you switch from scrolling back to your actual work, your brain doesn't fully reset. A tiny fraction of your attention stays permanently attached to that previous app. So you are secretly draining your mental energy, operating at maybe 60% capacity, reading the exact same line over and over again because your focus is literally split in two.
So what happens when we turn it off? Let's look at part 4, the fear of silence. To really understand what happens when we finally kill the noise, consider a college student who decided to test this out by deleting all of his social media apps for 1 full week. This timeline here basically maps out his micro-documentary of the experience. At first, it felt impossible. On day 1, he kept unlocking his phone automatically. On day 2, his brain felt completely restless. By day 3, the silence became incredibly uncomfortable. His mind just started racing with thoughts he had been avoiding for months. But then, around day 6, something really strange happened. His focus actually improved. His anxiety dropped. He could finally study without checking his phone every 3 minutes.
What that student experienced on day 3 is something scientists call the default mode network. When you suddenly remove external stimulation, like phones, videos, all that noise, your brain activates this specific network. It essentially fills the quiet with internal noise, overthinking, and daydreaming. Your brain is just desperately trying to fill that gap. And this leads us to the dark, hidden truth that most people never, ever realize. That student wasn't actually addicted to social media at all. He was addicted to escaping his own mind. Distraction protects people from self-reflection, because when the noise disappears, you finally have to hear your real thoughts, your fears, your insecurities, your unfinished goals, your loneliness. And for a lot of people, that feels absolutely terrifying. So instead of facing themselves, they just keep scrolling, again and again and again.
But there is a way out. Part 5. How to regain control.
The genuinely good news here is that your brain is incredibly adaptable, and it can recover. Psychologists actually recommend a really simple 3-step recovery protocol to fight back. First up, remove unnecessary stimulation. Just turn off all those useless notifications and physically put your phone in an entirely different room when you're working. Second, train deep focus daily. Even just 30 minutes a day without scrolling can begin to strengthen that attention span muscle all over again. And third, you absolutely have to learn to sit in silence.
Now, I know when you try to focus, your monkey brain is absolutely going to fight you. When that intense craving to check your phone hits, try using the 10-minute delay technique. Basically, you just tell yourself, okay, I will check it, but in exactly 10 minutes. Science actually shows that if you simply wait 10 minutes, that intense dopamine-driven urge to be distracted will naturally start to subside. You literally just have to outlast the urge.
Seriously, remember this quote: "Silence is where mental strength is rebuilt." At first, your brain is going to resist it hard. That's completely normal. An addicted mind completely fears stillness. But pushing through that initial discomfort and letting that default mode network finally quiet down is exactly how you rebuild your cognitive power.
So before you go and open another app today, I want you to ask yourself something really honestly. Are you controlling your attention, or is someone else controlling it for you? Because at the end of the day, whatever controls your attention eventually controls your entire life. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Now go reclaim your mind.